Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up guys, Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review. And for this review, Duncan Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from New Jersey death metal band Cognitive. The band's new album, Malevolent Thoughts of a Hastened Extinction, will be released on July 16th via Unique Leader Records. So, these guys have been active since around 2011. This will be their fourth full-length album. Which kind of surprises me that I haven't heard of these guys before. When I read they've been on the go for like over 10 years. But I'm going to start this off with an interesting fact, guys.
Dave's been in a time capsule for 10 years and thus has never heard this band.
Woke up from a coma and Cognitive, new band.
Who the fuck have we been talking to for the past year and a half?
I've always assumed like Dave is like a part of my brain that's fractured off. Which speaks more about me than it does about him, to be honest.
Yeah, it does, yeah. So anyway, yes, interesting fact. Guitarist Harry Lannon was also a member of a band called Single Bullet Theory, who was fronted by a guy called Matt DeFabio, who was the guitarist on Evolution by Piston Razors.
It always has to come back to Piston.
Always comes back
6
to
degrees of separation to Piston Razors.
Everything.
If
it always comes back to Piston Razors, Dave, maybe it's time to go see that doctor.
Yeah. Antibiotics will clear that shit right up.
And some very, very awkward phone calls.
I remember Single Bullet Theory. That's a band I have heard before. So
yes, I probably talked about them a lot.
I think you probably did. Yes.
Yeah, I think I might make it my mission on every review now just to link the band or members back to Piston Razor somehow.
I think that seems in your head like a really interesting thing to do, but really a tedious listen. So
look forward to that, guys. Coming soon on the next review. Anyway. Heading into the coronavirus pandemic of 2020, it seems like every press release starts off with
was there a pandemic last year? I can't
COVID-19. The band had 3 songs written and 2 band rehearsals of those songs before being catapulted into a global lockdown. The result, as with most other bands, finishing the album remotely, swapping and sharing ideas and files. The silver lining of this particular shitty situation, though, led to the band having more time to pore over and critique every detail of their writing process, scrapping ideas that didn't work and reworking ones that did. Eventually, with lockdown lifted, the band got together to record, having written the bulk of the album entirely separately. The album was recorded and mixed by Cognitive drummer AJ Viana and mastered by the Grammy award-winning mastering engineer Alan Duches at West Side Music. The aim for the album was a clean but organic sound that slammed harder than ever. Yes. Okay, so I was a little bit excited to hear this. I checked out both singles before hearing the full album, and they had me pretty, like, I was fucking high as a kite, let's be honest here, after those first 2 tracks. Of course, none of you shared my enthusiasm.
I didn't listen to the thing you sent
at all. In fact, you just fucking ghosted me when I mentioned anything to do with Unique Leader. It's just like, just ignore them. You'll stop talking about it.
It's not because they're on Unique Leader. That is not why I ghosted you. It's because you've already sent, like, you peek behind the curtain, listeners. There's a fucking spreadsheet, right? That just seems to, it's a never-ending spreadsheet that just gets populated with albums, and then Dave is sending you albums, and you're listening to those albums for that recording, and before you can even enjoy what you're listening to, Dave's sending you videos for albums that are going to be fucking 3 weeks away. Oh, listen to this is fucking amazing, this is my jam, wait to hear this, stank face, hashtag stank face. Like, it's like, and I'm sitting there going, thank you, Dave, for sending this. However, I'm trying to give all my attention right now to the albums that you've sent through.
Oh, Come on.
Literally,
You
this
watch
is
a fucking
every
listen.
week. Every fucking
You
week.
watch a fucking movie trailer for something that's new out for 3 months, but you're not listening to a track for an album you're going to hear in 3 weeks.
Yes.
Shut the fuck up. Right.
Different
Anyway,
medium.
on with the
Completely
review.
different medium. But Dave, yes, it is safe to say in our chat
Yes,
thread.
I am right. Let's move on.
It's safe to say that in our chat thread, all Dave did was go on and on and on and on. So much so that I didn't actually even know that Cognitive was a Unique Leader Records band until you just mentioned it there.
It was-
and after listening to them...
It was one message. I sent you one message.
but it got lost in the myriad of shite. Right. Shite that you talk, Dave, where you're like sharing brownie recipes and, you know...
Aye.
Like,
I've nothing to do with my brownie recipes.
a weird rash that you've discovered the day before, and then pictures attached to it that no one
the
wants to
cream for
fucking
that.
see. Right, anyway, I didn't know they were on Unique Leader, and had you...
Now you know.
Well, yeah, even after listening to this, I wouldn't equate them to a Unique Leader Records band. So there you go.
What the front
I will
door.
have a
Anyway,
conversation with you in a second where I will tell you why they don't sound like
Aye,
the majority
really
of the
aye.
bands on Unique Leader
Right.
that
Fine.
we've
Me
reviewed.
and you in the playground after school. Okay.
My dad's bigger than your dad. Right, so anyway, let's
Right, I'm selling tickets. Who's got money on Dave?
Dave will fold like an accordion, man. Look at him.
Listen, I've just came out of a coma, all right? I'm a wee bit weak now, so let's not be setting up any fights, all right?
You're like Seagal in that movie where he can still kick ass and walk after being in a coma for 10 years. It's hard to kill? Hard to kill? Maybe hard to... I can't remember. Let's stick to
be.
this, Dave. Cognitive.
Could be.
Should have called that hard to act.
My hair's all long.
You
and
son of a
and
bitch!
shit.
You take that
Hey.
back. Not in this
Fucking
show.
you. Don't you dare.
Me and Dave back together
Seagal.
again. Back together.
Big Stevie's my man.
That was easy.
Even though he might be a
Cognitive.
pedo, but we'll not talk about his paedophilia, we'll just talk about his great acting.
You know,
Is he a paedophile?
I thought did he not get was it not it was on the internet for something, he was doing dodgy stuff with somebody.
Ah, he had like a...
Maybe just made that
like
up,
a
I don't
Chinese-
know.
I don't think he's a paedophile. I think he had...
TV, I'm sorry.
I think-
Don't track me down and kill
I
me.
do think though it was domestic abuse, and he had was it a Chinese maid
was
or a
it?
Chinese wife that he locked in a basement for 3 years.
That's what it was. We should know
Fritzl
young
done.
though. We should know
But
like
it was
15 or
it's the
something.
Joseph Fritzl approach to loved ones. You used to
right.
lock them in a basement. That joke is killing it right now in Germany and everywhere else. Everyone else is cringing. Cognitive, New Jersey.
Cognitive. New album coming out July. Anyway, the first time I listened to this album was I was on the way home from the cinema, right? One night. It was quite late. And I was driving home and I got about 4 tracks into the album. When I was almost home, I was almost ready to drive into my street. But I was enjoying the album so much
The long route.
that I
here
didn't
we
go home. I didn't go home. I took a detour home, just so I could hear some more of the album.
Your wife's going to think you're having an affair.
Yeah,
Because no one's going to believe that the album was really good, so I took the long road home. I sure you did, Dave.
This is 40 minutes of punishing death metal of the highest order. And there's been some really good death metal albums this year already. But these guys, for me, have put out another release to add to that list. This is one of those albums that not only delivers what you'd expect from a death metal album, but so much more. This has the pant-shittingly heavy riffs. It has the tight and technical playing chops. It's got the diversity. It's got the variance to keep you engaged, and a production that's modern and punchy. But the production has a little bit of dirt to it, so it doesn't sound too pristine, which I really liked. But the most impressive thing here for me was the songwriting on this album. They said they'd been really picky about what ideas they were keeping for this album, what elements really worked, and that absolutely comes across on this release. They've clearly taken their time to construct this album from the ground up, making sure that each track is varied, keeps the listener engaged. Not once did this become like monotonous or repetitive. The rhythms on this are fantastic. I love an album that keeps you guessing and that, constantly kind of morphs shape. And there were a few moments on this where I was like, there wasn't any moments here where I was like completely like zoned into this, because the ideas and the execution of it just totally hooked me in. The guitar work in particular is brilliant. The riffs are really inventive, really fresh. The solos were technical at times, but also a little bit kind of uplifting in places. So I love the fact that they really thought each element of this album through. None of it felt like thrown in for the sake of it or oddly placed in the album. All flowed really well, felt really cohesive, rather than just a kind of bunch of riffs all kind of stapled together. As I mentioned though, the riffs, man, the riffs are just jaw-droppingly good on this. They are full of venom and dissonance, they sound really gutsy. I love the guitar tone, and those little kind of pick scrapes they would throw in every now and again, they just slice through everything. I especially loved those moments where you could feel like the intensity building on a track, and then they would just drop something completely devastating. And you almost get like one of those moments on every track, so it felt like really rewarding, when you got to that point of the album, just like, yes, they went through all the kind of technically immense stuff with the varied rhythms and tempos, but there was always like a payoff moment, it was just the kind of icing on the cake. It reminded me in places of Despised Icon a little bit. They're very good at giving you all that kind of technical prowess, but also having that climactic moment, that kind of balanced out all that kind of fretboards like wizardry. And although these guys do have that like technical streak to their sound, I don't think they overdo it either. There are moments where they slide into something more progressive or just kind of straight up kind of groovy. You can hear that progressive side kind of coming out on tracks like Arterial Red, where they kind of ease off the technical riffing for parts and just let the kind of the riffs breathe a little. They also have a track called The Maw, right, which couldn't be more Scottish if it tried, unless the next track was called Your Da Sells Avon, you know what I mean? But like that is like The Maw just completely like hooked me in. I was just like, yes, these guys get it. And that track just like hammers you with like blasts and fast riffs, but it's nicely broken up as well with some really cool like discordant grooves. It's even got some kind of blackened moments throughout the album as well. Malevolent Thoughts had a kind of blackened streak to it, so they leave like no stone unturned on this. And the level of playing is just insane. Like AJ Viana as a drummer is really interesting to listen to. His playing is really well thought out, really precise, but it's also got like a kind of fluidity to it that feels like he's just kind of doing what he feels in the moment. It reminded me in places some of the drumming on the last Black Crown Initiate album, which I think was Gabe Sieber that was on that one, but it just flows really well. But he's technical at the same time. And last but not least, the vocals. Like, no death metal band is complete without someone sounding like they're trying to pull out their own spleen. And man, like this guy Shane Jost, he might have just ripped out his own spleen during the recording of this album, because his tone is fucking disgusting. It is guttural, it's scathing, and everything in between. It's exactly what you'd want from a death metal vocalist. I think he brings a kind of layer of brutality that just complements and accentuates the music. It's just, he doesn't stick to the same tone or pitch as well. It's very varied in style, and I just think he nails it. Every type he's screaming on it, he just nails it. I think for me, like 40 minutes long, this was like a great length for this type of album. I did feel towards the end of the album there was a couple of tracks that weren't quite as attention grabbing as some of the tracks from the first half. Tearing Tendon from Bone, I think it was just lacking that moment that just makes you stop what you're doing. And Destitute was the other one that I thought was a really nice change of pace on that track. Some really cool vocal melodies as well, and it had those kind of uplifting solos that I mentioned earlier, but I felt like maybe it would have worked better as an album closer. I thought the placement was a little bit weird for that track. I did like the last track of A Hastened Extinction, but I think I might have swapped the last two tracks around, just me personally. But those little issues aside, still fantastic album, and I'll 100% still be playing this by the end of the year. I really enjoyed it. Oh, that felt good to get that off my chest. Duncan, what did you make of this?
Dave, you know that when it comes to death metal, it's just not my bag, baby. It's just
shut your
not
fucking mouth.
My bag. You were touting the year of death metal last year, and I was calling it the year of yawns. Oh, so tired, so tired. Let's just have a little lie down.
Let's move on to Kyle then.
I'm leaving. After that.
I didn't like the year of death metal, and I had 2 death metal albums in my top 20, so it couldn't really have been the year of death metal, could it?
Shameful.
So there we go. Or accurate. So you decide. In fact, you don't decide. The listeners can decide. This year, however, has been the year of death metal, hasn't it? Because, well, already in my top 10, without giving away spoilers, there are 2 death metal albums in there. So, like, and that's without expanding it to 20. Imagine what we did if we expanded it to 20. Yeah, like, I made it no secret. Sanguisugabog earlier on this year, I totally loved it. I thought it sounded great. And Cannibal Corpse. Cannibal Corpse, like, totally nailed the brief. And interestingly enough, Cognitive are on the Cannibal Corpse scale of death metal I enjoy. This has a ton of things in it that make it a compelling listen. First, the length. Yes, the length. 40 minutes, no longer than that. Do and keep your songs in line, and that's what they've done. Second thing, production is hefty. Absolutely hefty. Fucking love it. It's like that. It's like the weight in my balls when I've not shot in a couple of days. You know what I mean? Like, just heavy. Just kind of swinging like an executive toy that no one wants to look at on a desk. You know what I mean? So it's so fucking heavy and punishing in bits.
Oh, no.
The third thing, variety. That's literally one of the reasons I was so high on the Cannibal Corpse album, is that I felt that at no point did any riff overstay its welcome at all. It was almost as if they knew exactly the point where, like, if we play this one more time, it's just going to sound a bit tedious, and then they would switch up. This album is full of that. Like, they know exactly the length to keep a riff and then switch it up. The solos are brilliant, absolutely brilliant, memorable as well on subsequent listens. That's what kind of grabbed me out. I don't often look forward to a guitar solo, but on listens I was like, this is fucking like, bring in the solo, and there it's there. And vocally, this is about as punishing as something I've heard in the death metal variety this year. He's got a great tone. He's got an absolutely great tone, and it complements everything that's going on here. The drum work is phenomenal. Absolutely brilliant. Really, really just small attentions to detail to break up the monotony. Death metal, I've said it before, to me can be incredibly monotonous if we're just getting nothing but blast beats and just nothing but blistering riffs and a vocal that's over the top that you can barely distinguish because it's so fucking low, and we do that in every single song. This album is not that way at all. It sounds genuinely like, from what you were describing in the brief, they've used that time correctly to make the songs sound the best they can, and that sometimes means having a song and going, is that one riff that isn't working, or that one riff isn't as good as it could be, let's take it and bring it something in. I found this a very rewarding listen. The reason I said earlier on that it doesn't sound uniquely their records specific is not because it's not punishingly heavy. It is punishingly heavy, but it's just not produced within an inch of its life. And all those bands are produced with, and I love the sounds, but all those bands on that label are produced within an inch of their life. This still feels like earthy and nasty, and like there are sections in here where the guitar work is like a really heavy hate sphere. You know what I mean? Like just a really fucking blisteringly hard, thrashy fucking... And that was... I used exactly the same words when talking about Cannibal Corpse, that I said, this feels like it's encroaching on thrash territory with the approach to the riffing, but it's just heavier than that. And this is why I felt like so many songs here kicked off with a riff, and I was like, oh, fucking tune, man. Like, all the way through it. I genuinely think this is top tier death metal, and I'm like 100% happy that I didn't listen to the videos you sent around, Dave, because this was a welcome. So I genuinely didn't know what I was getting when I hit play, and by the end of it, I was kind of stuck looking at my device, going, "Oh, we're doing that again. we're going back to the start, and we're doing it again." This is like you said. I will. One of a select few amount of death metal bands that I'll be playing at the end of the year. I think this is fucking great. So yeah, I'm high on life. 2021, the year of death metal.
Kyle.
Hello. I also heard this album.
Okay. What did you think?
Well, I don't have much too different to say about it than you guys. I really liked it. I thought the arrangements and
Heavy Nuts
songwriting
as well,
were
yeah?
really good. Yeah, I have not shot in a few days. And after you made that comment, I don't think I'm going to be able to look a Scotch egg in the eye ever again. Especially a pair of them.
Well,
What
what
this
this
band brings
so
What this band brings to the table is a good mix of old school and new modern death metal. I think they mixed that together really, really well. They've got like the old school sort of really fast tremolo picking blast beat thing, but then they mix it up with some really heavy palm muty riffs. And I think that's great. I really do think they are standout band in the genre completely. I listen to a lot of death metal, as you know, and these guys are way up on the top of it. They are way up there already. I don't know if this is their debut album. I don't know if they've had many releases before. I know they're pretty new, but ish.
It's the fourth, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. But
I
yeah,
remember
no.
Dave was in a coma.
No, yeah, there you go. See? That's why I don't know. Dave didn't ever tell me. I'm looking forward to hearing more, but for me, it was not produced within an inch of its life. The guitars were pretty organic, the bass, the vocal, all that, but the drums, which is weird because this was mixed by the drummer, but those drums are fucking fake to a large degree. Oh, don't you give me that face. I'm a fucking drum
I'm not
producer.
sure,
I know.
Kyle.
Oh, you
I'm
listen
not
to it.
sure.
It's time aligned.
I did
Yeah.
listen to it.
Well,
Well, no,
go
it could be
through it.
time aligned, but there
Oh,
was
yeah.
definitely there was moments on the snare where I thought,
Oh
that's
yeah, there
not
were
a sample.
moments. No, there were moments, definitely. I agree, but a
There's
lot
lots
of
of
it,
little ghost notes and stuff that I don't
Yeah.
think you would have got with sampled drums.
yeah, there. No, I agree with that. I think he probably did play it. I
Yeah.
definitely wrote it because that's a drummer's line ever. There's no person in the world that could write stuff like that isn't a drummer. But there's a lot of fuckery there. There's a sample reinforcement or something, and I think it just took it a bit too far because I can hear it right away. The kicks especially sound very, very plastic. And I was just like, oh, if you hadn't have gone that far, this would have been amazing. So for me, that's the only thing that let it down. Was I know most people aren't going to hear it. They don't give a fuck. They're not going to hear it because I deal with this shit every day. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So it just took it down a touch for me. But that's it. That's the only complaint. Everything else about this is absolutely... Honestly, it's phenomenal. It's such a good album. And I don't understand how they did it. Like, it's like, what? How did you mix all the old school stuff that's amazing and the new stuff and put it together like that and be interesting all the way through? And the tone on that singer, man.
It's
Yep.
it's
Just how?
Yep.
So
orgasmic.
yeah, that was it. I'm just going to be rehashing what you two guys said, aside from the fact that the drums are just a little overcooked. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ratings for the new Cognitive album, Malevolent Thoughts of a Hastened Extinction. I'm about to drop this here. I'm about to drop this. It's tough. I'm swathering between two scores here because there was a little bit at the end where it was only really a switch of tracks round the other way, and there was one of the tracks where I just felt like I was just waiting on that big moment to hit me, and it never really hit me. But it doesn't make it a bad track. But fuck it, I'm going 5. This is a 5 out of 5 for me. Here we go. Let's do this. Dave's number 2 or second 5 out of 5 of the year. Cognitive. Duncan, what are you thinking?
It's a 5. It's a fucking.
Oh, look at
I don't have to
So
look at
nonchalant.
no internal conflict with me. It's a fucking great album. I've listened to this more than I expected to. More than I imagine anyone at Unique Leader Records that's checked out any of our reviews imagined I would listen to this. Like, this is fucking great. Like, this to me is the stuff that, see, when I'm moaning about like death metal bands that sound all the same all the time, and it's lacking inspiration. It's not inspired. It's like that riff's fine, but it's only fine. Like, you could do so much better. This is so much better. This is the stuff that I'm on about when I talk about this shit. This is easily a 5-star album.
Nice. And Kyle.
Well, I feel like an asshole now. I'm going to come in at a 4 out of 5. It's a great album, but there's just a few production choices I did not agree with.
See yourself out, Kyle.
Okay,
There you go.
bye.
This one drops on July the 16th on Unique Leader Records. If you want to check these guys out, it's facebook.com/cognitivenj. And I'll put a link in the description below to their Facebook and the pre-order for the album. Let us know what you think. Do you agree with me and Duncan's 5 out of 5? Or do you agree with Kyle's wrong answer of 4 out of 5? Let us know.
So that sounds like a loaded question.
Put your comments in below. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions. That's the review. Thanks for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
The door, boy!